Good morning. Good morning. As you get here, make sure you say hello and let me know that you're here. Give me just a moment. There's one. And I'm going live. All right, perfect. All right, so good morning. Good morning. Let me pull this up on my phone really quick. Just makes it easier to see. Whoops. What? All right, hold on a second. Something's amiss here. Hold on. I apologize. Give me a second. I think I clicked into the wrong group. Something's amiss here. Okay. I think I've got it now. All right. Good morning. Good morning. There's a lot of little hoops to jump through to get us live, but we can make it happen, right? So, how is it in your world? Are you having an amazing day already? And some of you are in a different time zone, so it may be evening where you're at. But I hope all is well. And I'm going to just go ahead and jump into our affirmation and journal prompt. So hold on. All right, so our affirmation for today is I am deeply connected to my values and brave enough to honor them, even when it's hard. We've talked quite a few times about values, and sorry, got some allergies going on. All right, you didn't want to hear me cough. So remember, when we've talked about values before, is because if we're not looking at our values and the way we're showing up in the world, how we're doing our business, how we're even having relationships, if we're not staying true to our values, then we're kind of like on a ship out in the ocean that has no rhyme or reason for where it's going. It's just going, right? So the tide tends to send it over here or over there. And you never get to the destination that you really started out for because you're not staying true to who you are. And so it's really important to revisit this quite often to see, maybe at some point, maybe your values change just a little bit. I know they do for me. As I learn new things and change some of the stuff about my world, then sometimes those values change a little bit too. And that's perfectly okay. But you've got to be making sure that you stay tuned to those values, right? And remember, anything that comes after the words I am are ultra powerful. So I am deeply connected to my values. And it's not an or, it's an and, brave enough to honor them, even when it's hard. So living in alignment with your truth isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And as you're going through, especially if you're an entrepreneur, which a lot of you are, as you're going through your entrepreneurial journey, there's a lot of things, the little shiny objects that pop up to kind of guide you from one thing to the other, right? And we can become prey to just jumping on any shiny object because it promises this end result that's going to get us what we're wanting. But sometimes we can get into those and realize that their values don't line up with ours. But if we didn't really know what our values are, we wouldn't be aware of that. And it might send us down the wrong path, send us in a way that's not really truly who we are. And it's important to stay authentically you and not just jumping on the bandwagon of someone else because their values may not be aligned. And it's important to know. All right, so I am going to, I'm moving kind of fast because I have an early client and I want to make sure I get there. Let's see. No. Oh, no, I'm doing it the wrong way. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. What did I just do? Give me a second here. All right, copy. Hello, hello. Okay, I think I got it now. All right, so some of it's not going to show up, but I will tell you what it says because it's a little bit long. But when it comes to our values, this journal prompt is really powerful. All right, so like I said in the affirmation, sometimes living in our truth is not always easy, right? But it's worth it. So let me take that off. So hold on. Geez Louise. All right, hold the phone. Let me re-copy and paste those because I didn't realize I had put part of the journal prompt in. All right. Delete that one. Delete that one. And delete that one. All right. So now here we go. Okay, let's try this again. All right, cool. That way it goes all the way in. All the way in. Hello, Susan. Hello. All right, so our journal prompt. Pardon me for all the snafu stuff, but hey, I got it now. Our journal prompt it's a values check-in. So what we want to do is we want to pick 3 core values that matter most to us. And for each one, we're going to ask ourselves, am I living in alignment with this value? Where am I not? And what's getting in the way? Now, it's really powerful to go through this process periodically to make sure that we are staying true to who we are and the values that we hold dear. And, I'll be honest, there was a time that somebody could ask me what my values were, and I'd say, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like something that was in the top of my mind. And I just thought you behaved a certain way and that was enough. But we can get so drawn into things that aren't aligned with us if we don't know what the values are. So when you do this one, am I living in alignment with this value? Where am I not? And what's getting in the way? Also ask yourself, what is one small boundary or shift you can make to better honor each one? What is one small boundary or shift you can make to better honor each value? Because one of the things that we also do a lot of times, and I'm speaking for myself, it may not be you, is that I'll have these values, but then I may not have really clear boundaries on those values. And, it can be so easy to say, oh, it's okay right now, and just keep going, right? And so when we can really, really be more mindful of what these values are, where it's a little easier to stay true, because it's a very slippery slope when you're close to the edge and you say, whoa, wait a minute, that doesn't align. And even if one of your values is, let's say, what if your value is prosperity, right? And the things that were coming up for you were things that were actually going to send you down a path that maybe wasn't as prosperous, or maybe a path that had you doing it in a way that doesn't honor your other values, right? So we really want to be paying attention even more. And then I've got a quote I want to share with you. I asked Chat to give me a quote. And it came up with this one. When you know what matters most to you, making decisions becomes easier and your life becomes lighter. Now, doesn't that sound good? Decisions become so much easier and your life becomes lighter. And we've talked about this in the past few weeks, telling our story, writing our own story, being on our own path. So what are your values that help you honor that path, that story, as you're creating, right? Any thoughts? All right, let's go back to our affirmation. I am deeply connected to my values and brave enough to honor them, even when it's hard. And the hard times will show up because it's one of those things we get tested all the time. How serious are they about these values? How serious are they about being authentic, or being joyful, being whatever it is, being trustworthy? What are those values? And we really were only focusing on a little small amount of them. We're only focusing on 3. So it would be your top 3. But there's I'll see if I can find it. I don't remember if I saved it or not, or if I have it in my notes, but there is actually a little printout that you can get that has a list of so many values on there. And then you can kind of go through and circle the ones that are really, really important to you. And then you pick out the top 3, the top 5, the top 10, whatever it is, so that you can stay and honor those values. And it can be quite eye-opening when you look at the list, right? And I just had I'm working with this amazing company right now to help me with getting clear on my vision, and there's a team of people that are going to be helping me to honor that vision for my business and for me personally as I'm going forward. And it's really, really cool. But some of the questions that they ask, I have all these spreadsheets, these Google Docs that I fill out, and it's like so eye-opening, just the questions, right? And then does that, how do I answer this honoring those values that I have? And it can sometimes be a little like, I don't know. But that's when you say, okay, let me just take some deep breaths. Let me go inside and just see. these values that I have, am I honoring them even when it's hard? And sometimes we have to tell somebody, no, I'm sorry. I can't do that. Or, however you say it, right? And I just recently, I was invited to be part of a challenge, and I looked at the things that I'm doing right now and what I'm working on. And, I have Sue Anderson is one of my partners in crime, so to speak, as we do a lot of things together. And then Christine Stresbeck and we do a lot of things together. And so this other thing sounded really good, but it's like, does it align with what I'm wanting to do right now? Is it the step that's going to take me closer to being able to help the people that I want to help in this way? And I had to say, I appreciate the offer. However, this would be taking me away from what I have right now. And I want to make sure I'm honoring my values of being in alignment, joyful, happy. One of my values is being an entrepreneur and being a philanthropist. And so it's all of these things. It was like that one thing, as amazing as it sounded, was not going to get me closer to that. It was going to, in some ways, it was going to be a distraction. But I honored that and said, thank you. However, maybe next time. And previously, I would have had a little bit of FOMO and said, well, okay, I know it's a stretch and I know it's going to make it hard to do this. And so I'll do it. But when I'm really staying true to my values, no. So where are you with your values? Do you have them written down? Do you have it somewhere that you can look at it often? Do you take the time to check it often to see, are these still the values that I hold true and dear to my heart? Because it's important for us to reevaluate. As we change, the values can change. So this affirmation, put it on your index card, the screensaver on your phone, put it somewhere that you will see it today. And really spend some time today assessing this, right? I am deeply connected to my values and brave enough to honor them even when it's hard. All right, and then our journal prompt. All right, let's see what this says. Doop, doop. Honoring our value is so important to our authentic selves. I think honesty and courage are the key, but is that enough? Honesty and courage are the key, but is that enough? Well, I would just look at your top 10 values. Okay, yeah, we need to be doing that often just to make sure, but only you can decide what's enough and whether it's aligned. But I would say look for, today we're only focusing on the top 3 values, but maybe you have 10 values that you really pull into you, and just be aware what those are. And maybe the ones that are the top 3, maybe those change and the basic values stay the same. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to reevaluate your values and you're just going to toss some of them out. You might, but it may just be that you add another one in, or they change in the order of importance. But reevaluating it is really, really powerful. So our journal prompt, pick 3 core values that matter most to you, the top 3. And for each one, ask yourself, am I living in alignment with this value? And that sometimes that'll be a little hard to look at, right? Am I living in alignment with this value? Where am I not living in alignment with this value? And what's getting in the way? This is something that I'm going to be doing this a little bit later today myself, going through this whole process again. And because, like I said, it's really important for us to go in and reevaluate periodically. And sometimes our values change because something happens and it makes us realize that we have another value that somebody overstepped. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. Let me make sure I have that on my values, right? It's kind of like we were talking yesterday. We just had our celebration party for the end of our Dare to Date challenge. And, some of the people were in there talking about the people that they had dated. And, one of the things that we did in the challenge was make our list of qualities that we are looking for in a relationship. And then what are the deal breakers, right? And so one person was talking and she said she had her list, but the one thing that she had neglected to put on there was that the person was honest. She said for some reason it didn't show up, and she realized that this person that she met wasn't being very honest. So she went back and evaluated her list and said, wait a minute, that one's really important to me. So she put it on the list. And so our values are the same way. Maybe it is she didn't have that as one of her values of honesty for others and for herself. And now she adds it in. So sometimes it's something that will kind of put a spotlight on something that, oh, that doesn't feel good. So let me evaluate that. So remember, for each one, ask yourself, am I living in alignment with this value? Where am I not? And what's getting in the way? But also, we want to look at, do we have a boundary in place for each one of these values that we make sure we let people know this is important to me? Make sense? So get out your notebook, your journal, put the date, the affirmation, the journal prompt, say it out loud with emotion, the whole thing. Have your timer set for 10 to 15 minutes, and then just tap on into the silence, the place where all the intuition, the subconscious, the God voice, it's speaking to you, and you can actually hear it because it's speaking to us all the time. And I know we have intuition all the time, right? And we can look sometimes at, we had this idea of, oh, I don't know, I don't think that's a good idea, or this person's not being truthful, this is going on. You had this intuition, but then you thought, well, I'm just being silly. That's probably not true. And we kind of dismissed it, and then discovered later on that we should have listened, right? And so by taking this time to tap into the silence so that you can really get in touch with what's going on and listen to that voice, it'll help you tremendously to be able to go through this process, picking the 3 core values. So you may, when you get finished with your 10 to 15 minutes, you may notice that there's a lot more values that show up in your mind. Write them all down. Write every one that shows up, even if it doesn't sound right. and then evaluate it. Pick your top 3 and then start working on those. Start there. Because sometimes what happens is we have such a big task that it's like it's too hard to do, or we'll procrastinate. Speaking from experience here, sometimes if it's too much, I'll kind of procrastinate because I don't know how to answer. And it's like, I'm not even going to do this right now. So what I want you to do is to simplify it a little bit. Let's see. Integrity has always been my governing value. The others grow and change as I do. Yes, Susan. I love that. So pick your top 3. You don't worry about the other ones. You do this incrementally, like you do 3, and then when you have time or you want to, you can look at some more, do 3 more. But it's just important to start with a smaller task so you don't end up sabotaging yourself for not doing it, right? Because this is really, really important and powerful, and it's going to help you tremendously going forward, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. Just being a human, our values are really important. So pick the top 3. And then for each one, ask yourself, am I living in alignment with this value? Where am I not living in alignment with this value? What's getting in the way? And are my boundaries honoring this value? Do I have the boundaries to go around that? So if integrity has always been your governing value, do you have a boundary set up so that if someone is out of integrity, that you can immediately do something? Or they know that if they are out of integrity, because that is one of your core values, and you've got a clear boundary about it, that maybe they will not be able to be around very much anymore. What do you say, Susan? Do you? I'll be honest. Boundaries is sometimes one of the ones that I struggle with the most, because sometimes it feels like you're being a biatch, right? Because not everybody has clear boundaries that they know are clear core values and have boundaries around those. And so other people think you're just being weird, you're being mean, you're being something, right? And then I'm going to share the quote again. So the quote for today is, when you know what matters most to you, I've learned to set my boundaries in time. Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Susan. When you know what matters most to you, making decisions becomes easier and your life becomes lighter. When you know what matters most to you, making decisions is like just breathing. It's easy, right? And your life becomes lighter. Just think of the joy that you can have every single day when you're being true to you, being true to yourself. Decisions become easier. It's so much easier to say, oh, thank you, but no thank you, without that layer of guilt that usually comes with saying no, right? And then on the other hand, it could be suddenly you get the opportunity to say yes, because, wow, I wasn't even thinking of that. And that aligns with my boundaries. Yes. So it opens it up both ways, right? But it just becomes easier. And life just becomes lighter, more joyful, more fun, more aligned. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let me. So over on Instagram, hello, hello. So when you know what matters most to you, making decisions becomes easier and your life becomes lighter. I'm just loving this quote. I really am. Because who doesn't want things to be easy and light, right? All right. So we've got our affirmation. We've written it down and put it where we need to see it today. We've also got our journal prompt, and we know we're going to be setting our timer, and we're going to be really tapping into our inner guidance, our God voice, our subconscious mind, our superconscious. We just got all the things going. And we're going to be so true to who we are. Using my values as part of self-compassion is another lesson I'm learning. Yes. Oh, Susan. Yes, I love it. And, I said one of the things that I sometimes struggle with is the boundary part of it, right? But I also, like, one of my values is self-care, right? But that's another one that I sometimes struggle with just because, I've got all these different things going on and in my business, in my world, and, just like everybody, right? But sometimes it's like one of those things that I have to remind myself that it's okay to walk away from this and do my self-care. And so it's knowing that that is one of my values helps me to make that decision. And there are gurus out there that tell you it's like, what is one of those old sayings, you can sleep when you're dead? I remember hearing that a lot, and it was like, whoa. But they will almost make it seem like if you're not going 24/7 doing these tasks, that you're doing something wrong and you're not honoring what you want. But that's a totally wrong, because everybody's different. The values are different. So you have to look at your values and what does that look like, right? So am I living in alignment with my values? Where am I not living in alignment? And what's getting in the way? Where are those boundaries? All right. So you guys have an amazing day, evening, wherever you are in the world. And I appreciate you and thank you for being here live and joining in the discussion. And then those that are here for the replay, I appreciate you just as much. And I will see you Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. And I've got some things that are going to be coming up soon, and I'll keep you abreast of what those are. But in the meantime, if there's anything that you need help with, to whether it's a mindset shift or if you're looking to break a habit that has been plaguing you and you're not sure how to move past it, then definitely reach out. We can have a short conversation and see what I can help you with in the moment. All right. So have an amazing day, and I will see you Friday. Mwah.